Okie dokie.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've never played the Fallout games. All I know about it is there's that dude who goes like, you know what I mean? That's all I know about the franchise overall. I couldn't even tell you the art form of the games. Are they like cartoony like that guy, or are they more realistic? Literally, I have no idea. I've never once tried to explore it. It's actually interesting. I've always heard amazing things about the franchise, but I've just never had any interest in taking a look at it. Like, it's always kind of loomed in the back of my head as something that could intrigue me, but every time I go to actually sit and think, oh, do I want to watch Fallout, or do I want to play the games, you know what I mean? Like, anything Fallout, I'm like, there's just nothing there. It just never seemed like my cup of tea, and also, I'm not really a huge gamer, so there's that. But I have to say, some of those elements that I say about things not being my cup of tea kind of held true in the Fallout episode 1 that I just watched. Now, I'm not saying all of it was bad at all. I just actually have so many questions, and there were things I really, really liked and things I didn't. I just didn't. And I'm going to be honest. I feel like that's the only way to come out swinging with this. I never really had an intrigue in the Fallout franchise to begin with. So, like, there's that. And then just seeing this, there were things I was naturally really excited to see and explore. And we got some of them, but we didn't get all of it. So we're going to be diving deep into episode 1 right now. And like I already mentioned, there were things that really hooked me about this episode and some things that didn't. But ultimately, the things that hooked me so much that I'm really intrigued to see what happens next. And I mean, look, that's the ultimate job of a pilot. And a lot of what I've already prefaced this video with are things that are normal for pilots. There's some things that work, some things that don't. You're naturally going to have questions whenever you see a pilot because you don't know. And because I've never had any experience at all in this franchise, there were some things that I was like, well, what is this? Like, you know what I mean? I got to tell you, I'm going to start with a couple of the things that I didn't care for, because the things I do care for are really cool and they're fun and things I want to talk about. But the biggest thing that I didn't care for in this first episode was the whole Brotherhood of Steel storyline. Like, seriously, I actually legitimately had no interest in it, point blank, period. Like, there was not one element of that kept me intrigued. As a matter of fact, every time I saw them cut back to the guy who looks like John Boyega, I just thought it was like some ripoff of Star Wars or something. I'm joking, before you get your pitchforks out in the comments. I don't actually mean that. It's just that storyline doesn't seem interesting to me. The Steel people and all of that stuff also didn't seem interesting to me. And like, there were some shots in there of them like walking all badass, and I was like, this is really fucking corny. I don't know, like that I didn't like. I'll be completely honest. I didn't care for the characters there. The guy who looked like, what's his name, Max? He looks like John Boyega. I'm just being honest with you. I think he does, but whatever. There's Max, and then the other characters there, and then the whole storyline of the Brotherhood with the robots. I didn't even get what they were doing. I didn't care for that. But I guess that's the only biggest thing that I didn't care for. Like, everything else had me deeply intrigued. The only other things, there's two, the only other two things that I could say that I wasn't a big fan of in this first episode was the whole cuts to names and things like that. And I get it, you have to set up people and things like that and tell stories where it's like Lucy, the ghoul, where it's like, you know, whatever, this Max, I don't know. Didn't really care for that. But that's fine. I guess you have to tell the story somehow. And I hate when shows are like, what's your name? My name is Max, blah, 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 blah. Like I've never been a fan of that. So if they're going to show people's names like Lucy and then show Lucy, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like that, I guess that's a very small detail that I wasn't a huge fan of, but whatever. And then the last thing that I wasn't a huge fan of was the whole sequence to get the ghoul to come out. Look, in fairness, I liked the ghoul. I think the ghoul is a really cool idea, Gabagool. I think it's a really cool idea overall that there's this person who I guess was brought back to life, which was clearly the guy from the start of the episode with who saw the nuke and all of that stuff. So, like, that was cool, but I didn't like the whole summoning of him. Like, I thought that was really corny as well. Like, I just wasn't for me. And I'm making it sound all bad, but just in actuality, those are the things that I just don't really care for. You know what I mean? Like that. And if that's it, That's really it. So it's the setup to the Gabagool guy. It's the setup to, it's the whole John Boyega story, the Brotherhood of Steel. Don't care for that. And I didn't care for like the name cuts. Fine. That's not the end of the world. I just really quickly to elaborate on what I guess I meant by the whole ghoul thing. I didn't like how they summoned him like he was Beetlejuice. Like it felt like they were doing Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Like it felt like some mix of Django Unchained, Beetlejuice, and like, I just didn't care for it. It didn't. That's it. That's a small one. The Lucy, the name sequence things are small ones. The biggest one is the Brotherhood of Steel. So now that those things are out of the way, I could talk about the things I actually liked because there was a lot of it. And like I mentioned, there was a lot of things that hooked me so much to the point where obviously I'm going to keep going. The show actually hooked me, like legitimately. And really, the biggest thing that hooked me was Lucy's storyline. The whole thing with the what do you call it? Vaults. That is sick to me. Like, honestly, to me, just if I'm basing my feelings about the show on this episode alone, because again, I'm fully fucking blind. I have no idea what the games are about. I have no idea what comes next at all. But if I'm basing it off of this current episode, the Vault storyline is sick. Like, that is a really awesome storyline that I wish they kind of focused more on in this episode instead of jumping A plot to B plot so much in your pilot episode with one really cool storyline and one that really just sucked in my opinion. Like, I don't know. I just think the idea of that is cool. And maybe it's because gamers have already experienced like the Vault story. I couldn't tell you, don't know, but maybe they're like, okay, well, we focused on that a lot in the games, you know, let's not focus on it in the show. No idea. All I do know is this is kind of its own original show story. So it's not like adapting a storyline from the game. I mean, maybe there's characters in it. I have no idea, but like, it's not really, it's its own thing. That's from what I understand. And I just like that whole Vault dynamic, like seeing the way the Vault operates, seeing that there's raiders in the Vault, seeing that Lucy was trying to escape the Vault, seeing that there was a wedding in the Vault itself and they had to show like the world on projector screens. That is so cool. Like that is so cool. Like the whole apocalyptic, okay, there was a nuclear blast and now we have to survive in a Vault. That is awesome to me. And honestly, I thought Lucy was an amazing character. I thought the guy who looked like Martin Sheen, which is Lucy's father, was a cool character and someone I would have liked to explore, like the politics of working and living in a vault and things like that. Like, that's cool to me. And then Rico from Hannah Montana was in this fucking show? What? You can't miss him. He's got a beak like a fucking pelican. You can't miss him. And I love him to death. I say that with all the praise in the world. I got a beak. I don't know if you can see that on screen, but I got a fucking dorsal fin for a nose. So I relate to that guy. But it was great to see him. I haven't seen him since Hannah Montana. That was cool. Genuinely cool. I liked that cast of people. I loved Lucy. I love Lucy. That's funny. It's a show. Whatever. I loved Lucy. I loved the dad. And I loved Rico. I loved them. And if you guys don't know, Rico is the brother. The only thing I didn't like about Rico is that he was like, you're doing something I'm too scared to do. Like, don't make him a pussy. We don't want to see that. It's fucking Rico. It's fucking Rico. And sure, it's like subverting our expectations and all of that. And I'm sorry if you guys just heard me clip. I'm screaming into this microphone, but I'm excited. Because I genuinely like that. And naturally, when I say I got hooked from this episode, I got hooked on those elements, like the Raiders. Where did the Raiders take the father? Unless he died, but it doesn't seem like that because they were setting up that she's going to go after him. I don't know. But I liked that. And I even liked that Lucy escaped and saw the outside world. Those are really cool elements that I like. And I like to explore that. I just didn't like the B plot of this, like with the whole Brotherhood of Steel storyline. And that kind of sucks to me because I feel like they're definitely going to be focusing on that. And maybe my opinion's going to change. It might. But for now, I really liked the setup of the protagonists of the story. I thought they did a phenomenal job with that. The music, the timing, like, or when I say the timing, I mean like the timeline where it's like the 1950s. So it's like retro, but also like way past our current time. So it's future, but retro. Really cool idea. Just genuinely, I wholeheartedly thought that was awesome, but I just wish we got to focus more on the vaults. That's so cool to me. And for someone who's never seen the show, never played the game, that's what I want to explore. I hope we get more of it. I think I've seen in the trailers or something like that, there's more shots of Rico. There's more shots of him, which is good because that means there's probably more Vault stuff we're going to explore. I don't know. I know the show is fully out, and I wanted to talk about that really quickly while I have your attention. I am going to review the show episode by episode, even though Amazon releases them like all at once for some stupid reason. I hate when they do that. I get it. It's something you binge, sure, but I just hate that happens. It's not cool to me. Whatever. So I'm going to go episode by episode. I haven't seen episode 2 at the time of recording this video, but I just hope we get more of the cool, like the tech side of stuff. Like, what was the thing on there? There was like a really cool Apple Watch. It wasn't an Apple Watch, but it was like a big thing. It looked like the thing that Buzz Lightyear has on his, that's cool. Like, what is that? Where did they get this tech? How'd they make this tech if this was the 50s? That's all awesome to me, and stuff that I truly, genuinely hope the show focuses on. And sure, the Gabagool was like kind of cool. Sure, like I'm intrigued there, but naturally I'm more interested in the Lucy storyline. I think it would be great, and again, I have no idea if this happens, but I think that would be great if the Ghoul and Lucy somehow like connected. That would make for a cool story, because I like the whole idea that Lucy was clearly born in the vault, so she has no idea what the outside world is, and when she comes out of the outside world, she's looking at the ocean. That's cool to me. Like, I really genuinely like that, and I hope we get more of like a fish out of water, she's experiencing the real world sort of thing. I want to see that, and I also want to see the Vault, and I want to see the Gabagool. I just don't want to see the Brotherhood of Steel. I don't really care at all for that. Like, and also, I have to bring it up, like, people were saying the graphics and all that stuff looked good and stuff, but honestly, the people that were in the Vault, the Steel costumes, it looked like it was like styrofoam or something, or like not styrofoam, like what do you wear when you're going to karate? You know how you have like the kick pads? You just saw my leg, Jesus. You know how they have like the kick pads that are made out of that foamy material? That's what it looked like those metal outfits were. Like, I didn't think they looked that good, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, on the angles of them, it looked like foam that was just in a chrome, like, spray paint. Like, it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good. I don't know. But other than that, I liked everything else we got. I feel like I'm just yapping at this point, but it's all true what I'm saying. Like, these are my thoughts on the first episode. I really, really loved the Vault storyline. I liked the Raider element to that. I liked the technology side of it. I liked Lucy. I liked Rico. I liked Martin Sheen looking dad guy. I liked them. I liked the Ghoul stuff a little bit here and there. But I really didn't like the Brotherhood of Steel stuff. So that's my opinions on the first episode. I'm really intrigued to see where the Lucy side of this goes. Don't give a shit right now where the Brotherhood of Steel storyline goes. Hey, that may change. I hope it does. But right now, that's how I feel about it. I wholeheartedly enjoyed this episode. It was definitely a change of pace from shows I've watched and things like that. Like, there was an element of corniness, an element of funny that was... It wasn't bad, like it was good. It was fun to watch, and it made it intriguing. So I'm very happy with what we got there, and I can't wait to see episode 2. So definitely stay tuned for a video on that in soonish. I don't know when in is. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in a couple days. I don't know, but definitely stay tuned for that. And with that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. Until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.